Chapter 6, The Structures in Crystals and Water. We begin with defining frequencies, coherence, and resonance. Water, as a liquid crystal, orders its molecular arrangement into crystalline lattice formations. These are essentially repeated angles, vectors, which are specific mathematical structures and lines, vertices, points of angles where lines intersect, and geometries, or mathematical shapes. By examining the study of crystallography, through which a great deal about geometric patterns is known, we can understand much about the importance of the structure of water. Both liquid and solid crystal patterns vary in their mathematical geometries and symmetries, and these geometrical patterns are expressions of the energetic information they contain. Thus, their specific crystal structures determine their properties or characteristics and abilities, their memory and responsive information storage, and their ability to transmit signals, as organized patterns provide efficient pathways for the flow of energetic information. This applies to both liquid and solid-state crystals. The fact that solid-state crystalline structures are able to both store and transmit information is a property or ability used by modern society since before the original crystal radios. Remember when computers were the size of a large room or a small house? It was the development of the quartz crystal-based computer chips and microprocessors that have made computers what they are today, thanks to their ability to transfer and process information. Today we know that crystals also have enormous potential for storage and archival information, and we have just begun to scratch the surface of their abilities to hold immense amounts of data. For example, in Hamburg, Tennessee, scientists have already successfully stored and retrieved thousands of 3D holographic images from a single niobate crystal, which are typically only inches in diameter. In Japan, the electronics giant Hitachi and Kyoto University are laser etching information into slivers of quartz that can preserve information for hundreds of millions of years without degrading or breaking down. These quartz chips are also waterproof and resistant to chemicals and weathering, including temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius in testing, and have thus been dubbed Superman crystals. We know that entire library databases, including the entire Library of Congress, can be stored onto a single crystal. And in today's technology world, if not for cloud-based storage systems, we would almost certainly be using quartz storage systems in our everyday computers. Crystals can potentially last nearly forever, as their molecules are so symmetrically arranged that they don't break down like normal materials, a process sometimes referred to as entropy. With this type of nearly permanent lifespan and their capacity and efficiency for information storage and retrieval, quartz hard drives would have been developed to replace the current crystalline iron magnetite-based hard drive systems of today, originally developed by Dr. Marcel Vogel. If not for our recent increase in use and development of storing information in the cloud, that is, storing it online. These capabilities, from watches and radios to computer chips, computer screens, and database storage, are only made possible by the patterns and thus the properties of crystalline structures. The geometric structures of the molecular arrangement in crystals that allow them to record so much information are the same geometric structures that are responsible for water's phenomenal memory recording. It has been recorded, for example, that each group of water molecules, called a cluster, works as a type of memory cell. These clusters vary in size and complexity, containing up to hundreds and even 1,000 molecules, but most commonly observed in groups of 3 to 60 molecules, and expressing various types and degrees of geometric patterns. Some have recorded there to be at least 440,000 different panels of information storage within each cluster or memory cell. Having acknowledged that solid-state crystals have vast potentials for information storage, from the 3D images in Hamburg to the potentials of entire library databases, it is not difficult to grasp that the same geometric structures present in water as a liquid crystal allow it the same property of information storage. And there's a figure of a structured water cluster model that is an image from Martin Chaplin of London South Bank University. Crystalline structures can also cause the coherence of energy transmission, wherein the energy projected through its structure becomes correlated, synchronized or in phase with one another. Coherence is a property that is most easily seen in observing the action of light in ruby crystals and can be understood by comparing incandescent bulbs to lasers. With incandescent bulbs, the light emitted is scattered randomly in all directions and is thus incoherent light. Light projected through a properly cut ruby, however, will cohere the light, focusing the light waves in one direction and projecting them as synchronized, cohered waves, all moving together, thus creating the original laser. The electromagnetic energy waves need not be of the same frequency in order to be coherent. Frequencies that are harmonic, meaning that they have a complementary mathematical relationship, like harmonic musical notes in a chord, may still operate or vibrate in coherence with one another, having found synchronization in a harmonic scale. A laser exhibits this synchronized wave emission, also called coherence. And figure 8 is an energy, coherence, and harmonics figure. These waves are in perfect mathematical ratios, repeating exactly 3 to 5 times within the sequence of the larger primary wave. These waves are coherent or in phase, harmony, and synchronization with each other. That was just a description from the figure. To continue the text. Let us further define and demonstrate these concepts, for they are fundamental principles. As previously discussed, a frequency is a specific electromagnetic or energy wave pattern. In mainstream science, it applies only to electromagnetic activity, since there is not yet an appropriate understanding of the mechanics of subtle energy, also called magnetoelectric energy, a topic we will explore later. Yet science has long recognized that all electrical activity has a corresponding magnetic field, and all magnetic fields have a corresponding electrical value. Thus, energy is at once both electric and magnetic in nature, and is hence termed electromagnetic. The electromagnetic energy waves have specific patterns, which are measured as its frequency. Frequencies are incredibly important, and a primary mechanism our universe uses in its expression. Everything, from cells, tissue groups, organs, systems, and individuals, to different atomic elements and compounds of matter, are all emitting electromagnetic frequencies, different patterns of energy that are unique to its source, that is, its vibrational signature. Every element on the periodic table emits its own specific electromagnetic frequency signature, as does the Earth, which emits a harmonic chord of fluctuating frequencies, most often resonating at 7 to 8 hertz, the term used for measuring electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves are emitting from every organism and object, every atom and molecule, every star, and every planet. They are all sound and light waves, radio waves, microwaves, and X-rays. These waves of electromagnetic energy are assigned a value of frequency based on the speed at which the wave travels, and how many times the peak of the oscillation, or vibrating wave, moves past a point each second. Thus, a certain note or sound has a frequency, measured in hertz, which can be taken literally to mean cycles per second, as in how many times the wave repeats its pattern in a single second. As does a certain color of light, typically measured in wavelengths, as opposed to the hertz system of cycles per second, as light travels much faster than sound and has a much higher hertz value. Or the certain frequency of a radio station or cell phone, often referred to as harmful artificial electromagnetic radiation in frequencies, or EMR and EMF, respectively, which are often vibrating in the microwave range of the electromagnetic spectrum. The 7 hertz frequency used in the Montagnier experiment discussed earlier, then, is an electromagnetic wave that repeats its pattern 7 times in 1 second. On the electromagnetic scale, audible sound and voice frequencies are between 20 and 20,000 hertz for the average human, while for dogs it ranges between 40 and 60,000 hertz. Visible light waves are much faster than audible sound and range between 430 and 790 terahertz, or trillions of cycles per second, for humans. Because they are in the trillions of hertz, light waves are usually measured in terms of nanometers. Several species of birds, insects, and reptiles perceive visible light waves in the ultraviolet, or UV light side of the scale, outside human visual perception. Power lines are operating at a certain frequency, as are radio waves, cell phones, and Wi-Fi signals, all emitting a specific band or range of frequencies. We are constantly receiving incoming energy in the form of electromagnetic frequencies, information both perceivable to our senses, that is, visual light and sound, and not perceivable to our senses, that is, the electromagnetic frequency waves emitted by cell phones, radio signals, power lines, etc. The specific electromagnetic frequency will carry certain information in its wave and frequency pattern. Whether that information is perceivable by our senses, that is, light waves in the color red, or is not perceivable, that is, the electromagnetic frequency waves emitted by a cell phone. Consciously perceived or not, our cells, tissue groups, organs, water, and system as a whole receives and reacts to incoming electromagnetic frequencies. All forms of modern science and biology acknowledge this fact, while the subject of how the body is influenced, either positively or negatively, by such various electromagnetic frequencies, is much less well understood. The human body has a complex electromagnetic system, as information is transferred among systems via electromagnetic frequencies, and electromagnetic frequencies play a large part in cellular communication and processes. In the cellular world, much activity happens by way of electromagnetic frequencies, and in fact, not a single reaction happens in the body that is not electromagnetic in nature, meaning that every reaction in the body uses electromagnetic energy in order to work. In the body, there is no such thing as a biochemical reaction. There are only electrobiochemical reactions. Cells use electromagnetic energy to send signals, to open and close cellular ports, and in fact to successfully create every cellular process. Electromagnetic signals are used to induce cascades of physical reactions in the body, and even for the body to communicate with its environment. The electromagnetic field of the heart, for example, is incredibly strong and is detectable even 60 feet away from the human body with rather simple equipment. Every cell in the body is actively registering and transferring all energy within its environment and is constantly initiating an appropriate response based on how it translates the incoming frequency information. Here there's a rather long quote that says, "Cells can recognize extremely subtle differences in electric fields, noting their waveforms, amplitudes, and frequencies. They then decode them, decide how to respond, and initiate a response. Cells also recognize other communications, other languages from the environment. This sensitivity to subtle communications in the electromagnetic spectrum is not limited to cells. Even enzymes and molecules recognize and process different electromagnetic frequencies. These kinds of oscillations or wave signals make up one of the primary languages used by all self-organized systems." That's a quote from Stephen Herod Buhner, and it doesn't say who he is. To continue. The electromagnetic energy field of an individual is a complex harmonic of nested frequencies, wherein every cell emits a frequency, and groups of cells synchronize their vibrations to either match frequencies or vibrate in tune or resonance, that is, in phase, in sync, or in harmony together. Viewed from the mathematical perspective, these waves will be in a balanced relationship, and the level of balance may even indicate the level of the body's health. Wave harmonics can be easily viewed through music, where octaves of the same note represent an equal relationship in the ratio of their frequencies. For example, the low C note on a piano has a frequency of 16.35 Hertz, repeating its wave pattern cycle 16.35 times in 1 second. 8 notes, or 1 octave higher, we find again the C note, only of a higher pitch, this one vibrating at 32.7 Hertz, or twice as fast as the lower octave C. The next C on the piano has a frequency of 65.41 Hertz, vibrating 4 times as fast as the lower C, and twice as fast as the octave before it. When the relationship of the frequency is a precise ratio, as with octaves, it is what we call a harmonic vibration. The average ear can easily recognize the difference between harmonic chords of music or dissonant or out-of-tune chords. Out of tune because they do not resonate or vibrate at harmonious frequencies of complementing wave patterns. The human body operates on incredibly complex harmonies of nested electromagnetic information, frequencies emitted from individual cells, groups of cells, enzymes, bacteria, organs, the brain, the frequencies generated by the movement of blood and fluids, bone, etc. What this means is that all of these different frequencies are woven together, much like musical notes in a chord. Thus, we cannot assign one particular frequency to an individual, as various parts of the body resonate with different frequencies, all projecting energy which, when combined, becomes the electromagnetic field of the person, a dynamic and constantly adjusting energetic field. The heart alone is a strong and complex electromagnetic generator. It is not a singular frequency, but a group of frequencies created by each cell and cell group, as well as the movement of action and pulsing, and the electrical and magnetic activity of the organ, and the electromagnetic energy generated by the blood moving inside it. These numerous different frequencies and energy waves are woven together like a nest, or fitted together like a nesting doll, stacked inside of or on top of each other in perfectly fitting ratios. The body, in ideal health, is resonating frequencies of cells, tissue groups, and organs that are all synchronized in harmonic mathematical ratios. This harmonic vibration allows for coherency within the system, where information can be gathered, translated, relayed, and received in the most productive and efficient manner possible. We engage in electromagnetic communication and information transfer every day as we emit electromagnetic frequencies from our heart, brain, and body into our environment, and receive electromagnetic frequencies through our heart, brain, and body from our environment. Frequencies are used in the body to react to changes in the internal or external environment, such as temperature, weather, and time of day, and for translating electromagnetic information into various forms, such as the photoreceptors and audio receptors, which translate certain frequencies into their respective perceived sound or light. We are impacted by frequencies of electromagnetic energy that are not even perceivable to us. Already we described the Schumann resonance of the Earth's natural electromagnetic frequency and the way an individual's health rapidly deteriorates when denied exposure to this field. Frequency, then, can be understood as a specific pattern of radiating energy, descriptive of its speed, type, or intensity of energy, perceivable or not perceivable. We mentioned previously that the body, in ideal health, is resonating the combined frequencies of all its cells, tissue groups, and organs in synchronized and harmonic mathematical ratios, as this harmonic vibration allows for coherency within the system, where information can be gathered, translated, relayed, and received in the most productive and efficient manner possible. From this perspective, disease could really be considered dissonance, where some pathology of a system or symptom of disorder would be reflective in its vibrations, oscillations, or frequencies being out of phase or out of tune, deviating from its normal healthy pattern and causing incoherence within the system. Coherence, when used this way in physics, is defined as, quote, pertaining to waves that maintain a fixed phase relationship, end quote, or relating to, quote, two or more waves having the same phase or a fixed phase difference, end quote. A fixed phase difference or relationship refers to the harmonic ratios described earlier, using the example of multiple musical notes of a chord. A harmonic chord of music vibrates multiple sounds into one resonant group of vibrations, rather than a dissonant chord where the multiple sounds do not blend in a coherent nested manner, but rather produce a jarring sound readily recognized by the ears and body. Thus, another definition for coherent is, quote, having a natural agreement of parts, harmonious, end quote. When discussing coherence among multiple frequencies, we are also talking about the organization and synchronization of information and energy. The more coherence in a system, the more organization there is, which means more information and more energy can be contained and transferred. This property of coherence is easily viewed through the coherence of brainwave patterns. Here, measurements taken using EEG devices can measure electrical impulses emitted by different regions of the brain and determine their level of synchronization and rhythm. States of meditation are associated with an increase in brainwave coherence. Higher rates and patterns of coherence are also associated with more integrated and effective thinking and behavior, which often express as greater intelligence, creativity, learning abilities, emotional stability, self-confidence, and reduced anxiety, as well as other traits and expressions we would normally regard as healthy or positive. This is also viewed in the measurable coherence of the heart rate and its emissions, wherein greater coherence has been associated with a longer lifespan, a healthier and higher functioning physiology, greater emotional wellness, a stronger immune system, higher quality of life, and an increase in the effectiveness of communication between cells and systems. In terms of electromagnetic energy, particularly when discussing the frequencies of an individual or their brainwave patterns, coherence is as important as frequency. The different frequency bandwidths exhibited by the brain relate to its electrical energy and are associated with brain activity, but the level of coherence reflects the amount of information in the system. For example, Mozart was operating at the same bandwidths of brainwave frequencies as everyone else, but likely had a much higher level of coherence within his frequencies, with certain regions of his brain oscillating or vibrating at specific rates and emitting electromagnetic waves that had a specific harmonious relationship to each other. These frequency emissions, based on the individual's brain activity in a coherent system, are woven together in a synchronized pattern, creating smaller and more complex unique patterns within the larger context of its measured brainwave frequency pattern. Patterns called fractals, which transfer and store massive amounts of information. Let us consider this further to build our understanding and really grasp this fundamental reality and principle of energetic physics. As we have already discussed, every cell emits a wave pattern or frequency. In a state of health, groups of cells, each emitting an individual pattern of energy waves, synchronize their wave emissions or vibrations to vibrate in harmony, in synchronization, in rhythm, and in coherence. Each wave pattern, when magnified, reveals smaller patterns within its larger structure, patterns that are self-similar, that is, similar to its larger parent pattern. Each time the magnification is increased, it reveals smaller and smaller patterns that are yet still similar to its larger structure. These are called fractals and are easy to see in the branching ends of snowflakes, which become smaller and smaller versions of an overall larger pattern. In a coherent system where the wave patterns are vibrating in harmony with one another, these different patterns combine to make intricate, complex, and unique geometries. In a coherent system, the geometries that are created from the weaving and combining of different frequency patterns of energy are precise in their shape and angles. The intersecting lines and structure, or vectors, of the geometric patterns that are created have specific angles where points and lines intersect and cross, creating edges, definitive points in the patterns, and exacting angles, also called vertices and vertexes. From a physics perspective, the vertices, or angles, are where information is actually present and stored, and the lines between the angles, or vectors, are typically viewed as the directional paths on which information travels throughout the network. The vertices, or angles which store information, are also sometimes called nodal points, as they are essentially points at which lines or pathways intersect at a connecting point in the network. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little stuffy, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to finish this chapter. In a coherent system, such as that displayed by Mozart's musical brain, each of the different groups of cells, or different areas of the brain, emit different energy wave patterns in synchronized harmony, which intersect with each other and form geometric shapes within their vibrating energy wave patterns. These geometric patterns are complex, unique, and store and transfer large amounts of information in the energetic dialogue that occurs between all interacting waveforms of energy. This is essentially the magic and power behind a coherent energy system. Coherence, synchronized wave patterns, brings geometric nested fractality, that is, complex patterns of nested and woven geometric patterns which, when magnified, reveal even smaller and smaller similar patterns within their structures. This in turn translates into exponential increases in the information transferring capabilities of the system. These unique frequency patterns, with their complex and intricate weaving or nesting of the many frequencies emitted by the brain and body, are creating fractal geometries these self-similar subunits, or smaller and smaller patterns within the pattern, and within its coherent expression of all these synchronized waves. This allows for a great amount of information transfer and processing within the system. Thus, Mozart, with a high level of specific frequency coherence, had the ability to recognize frequencies, waves, and their relationships, and applied this to music, integrating patterns and harmonies in ways most people could never dream of. Using EEG monitors, which register the different electromagnetic signals from various areas of the brain, we can now measure brainwave coherence and see a visual representation. See in a visual representation the synchronized or non-synchronized wave patterns. The image on the following page displays the effect that transcendental meditation, a specific type of meditation practice, has on brainwave coherence. The first image displays EEG readings from a non-meditating subject, while the second displays a subject during transcendental meditation. Not only is there more brain activity during transcendental meditation, there is also greater coherence and synchronization throughout the system. Meditation practices of all kinds are known to improve brainwave coherence, and the EEG scans of the meditating subject, who is experiencing a high state of brainwave coherence at the time of the scan, give us a graphic representation of the increase in the complex geometric nesting of patterns of energy. And here they have the figure that they just described. When one considers the actual physical reality of what is occurring in the brain at any given time, we see that there are streams of different types of electromagnetic energy, different frequencies and patterns of energy emitting from all areas of the brain simultaneously. Simultaneously does not necessarily mean synchronized, nor does it mean complexly organized. However, we see the synchronization and complexity of activity in all areas of the brain increases dramatically when a person is meditating. These energy patterns, their level of complexity and organization, determine the capabilities of the system. How much information can a person's brain retrieve, process, store, and transfer? And how complex can the information be? These questions are answered by the level of coherence within the system. Electromagnetic energy waves are dynamic, and as we further explore the importance of patterns, geometry, and fractality, we will see even more clearly what is happening behind the veil of coherent energies. The level of coherence within the system allows for complex information retrieval, processing, storage, and transfer because the different electromagnetic frequencies express complex geometries within their own pattern and interact with each other's various complex geometries to nest and combine in a matching and synchronized rhythm, creating even more intricate geometric patterns in their energetic dialogue and exchange of information. One of the reasons incredible things happen when coherence occurs is the resonance wave. We discussed resonance earlier by describing one of the ways the word is used to indicate a resonating wave, as in its reverberations or emitted vibrations. Another way it is often used is actually similar to coherence. When two or more frequencies are vibrating in phase, coherence, nested, or in harmonious mathematical ratios with each other, they are referred to as having resonance, which is really an expression of coherence. Then there is the principle of resonance, which encompasses also the phenomenon of the resonance wave. This principle refers to the way in which the vibrations of one thing affect the vibrations of another, causing it to change its vibrations of electromagnetic energy in order to oscillate at a frequency that will be in phase or resonance with the original dominating vibration. This principle can be easily seen in the action of tuning forks, which are designed to vibrate at a specific frequency. If one has two tuning forks tuned to the same pitch or frequency in the same room, they need only to strike one of the tuning forks to get them both to vibrate. Here the principle of resonance is readily apparent. The vibrating waves of one thing are used to affect the vibrations of another. Because of the resonance between the two tuning forks, the vibrating wave emissions of the first tuning fork upon reaching the second tuning fork causes it to also vibrate. Another example happens between strings of musical instruments, even those of different notes, as long as they share a harmonic octave. For example, a string tuned to the A note of 440 Hz will also cause an E string at 330 Hz to resonate or vibrate because they share an overtone or a harmonic, let me try that again, or a harmonic pitch of their octaves at 1320 Hz, the third harmonic or octave of A, and the fourth harmonic or octave of E. The principle of resonance can also be seen by the actions of the opera singer who, when vocalizing at the right pitch or specific sound frequency, breaks a glass. The frequency of the pitch causes the vibrations of the glass to speed up, trying to achieve resonance with the vibrations of the sound. Eventually, the molecules of the glass are no longer able to retain their original structure with the increased energy and change in frequency. Thus, the glass shatters and the energy is released. This is an example of when resonance is not achieved. The molecules of the glass cannot vibrate at so high a frequency and still remain glass. When the principle of resonance is achieved between two frequencies, however, and two waves become synchronized, harmonious, in phase, and coherent, and here we observe the phenomenon of the appearance of a new wave outside of the original two frequencies, a new wave which can now be detected in the pattern. This new wave is really the magic of the synergy that occurs in achieved resonance, wherein coherent resonance is achieved, energy and information is transferable, and something new is created. In the realm of the principle of resonance, coherence, and the resonant wave, 1 plus 1 really does equal 3. This is the very definition of synergy, where the result is greater than the sum of its parts. This resonance wave also represents the energetic dialogue when resonance is achieved, the information transfer between two systems that creates new information based on their communication. Let us view this through the lens of human nature, where resonance can easily be seen through a successful relationship. Two individuals coming together and having resonance establish a third wave of energy, that which comes out of their relationship, the energetic dialogue between them in constant exchange, constantly creating new information, viewed as the growth and fruits of their relationship, the synergy that is created from the coming together of two separate individuals. Frequency, coherence, and resonance are important principles and terms to understand when discussing electromagnetic energy, particularly as it relates to crystals, water, and physiology. Using principles of resonance, the vibrating frequencies of one thing can be used to affect the vibrating frequencies of another thing, and can be used to establish coherence between the two systems, thus increasing the amount, quality, and efficiency of informational processing. This has been viewed using EEG scans and other monitoring devices to observe changes in brainwave patterns during intentional or subtle energy healings, where conscious energy from one individual is used to affect the health and mental state to stimulate healing in another. Changes in the brainwave patterns of the healer have been observed to fluctuate and change until there is a level of resonance established between the brainwave patterns of the healer and the healee, at which point the brainwave patterns of the healer begin to fluctuate and raise to a more coherent frequency pattern, and in effect are able to bring the brainwave frequencies of the healee into a more stable frequency pattern and greater coherence at the same time through the established resonance. This is how the actual healing is achieved, as having a more stable frequency pattern and greater coherence greatly affects, if not determines, our level of health. As both liquid crystals, that is water, and solid-state crystals, that is quartz, are both part of the crystalline family, there is an inherent level of sympathy between these two systems, which is largely responsible for the effect crystals have been observed to have on the structure of water. The use of solid-state crystals is one of the primary methods used to bring about liquid crystallographic structural changes in water, the details of which will be further explored later on as we discuss different structuring methods. The effects solid-state crystals have on electromagnetic energy are astounding. It is largely because of this fact that we have been able to advance our technological developments from the original crystal-based radios and quartz watches to today's microchips and advanced computing crystal-based systems. In addition to their incredible memory and storage capabilities and their ability to cohere frequencies, such as the laser light of a properly cut ruby, they are also able to amplify, transmute, transform, transfer, transmit, and transduce electromagnetic energy. They can cause energy to change forms or be conducted, emit energy of high forms and frequency, and release energy through their resonating frequencies. These abilities can be observed through remarkable properties many crystals express, such as piezoelectricity, mechanical pressuring resulting in electrical energy, like quartz, bone, etc. Pyroelectricity, applied heat resulting in electrical energy. I'm going to try this. I think the word is birefringence, the splitting of a light ray into two separate light rays perpendicular to each other. Semiconductivity, the ability to conduct energy and information without resistance or loss of information within the system. Infrared emissions, crystals which emit frequency waves and vibrations in the infrared portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. Ionizations, which are crystals which release negatively charged particles into the atmosphere, donating energy in the form of negative ions. Radiation emissions, the emission of energy waves which carry electrical charge. Pyroluminosity, applied heat causing phosphorescence, etc. All of these attributes relate to the ability of crystalline structures to transform and transduce energy. The different properties attributed to different classes or types of crystals relates to their differences in geometric, atomic, and molecular arrangement and structure. It is the specific geometric structure of molecular arrangement that determines a crystal's properties, and all crystals are classified by science into 7 types of crystals based on the primary geometric formation in their lattice structure. Crystals, particularly quartz crystals, vibrate at such a consistent rate because of the organization and structural integrity of their molecular structure and arrangement of silicon oxide. I think that's silicon oxide, SiO2. That you can time a watch to it, quite literally. The first and best watches are based on a small piece of precisely cut quartz crystal, which generates its own power through the generation of electricity as a result of the mechanical pressure of being squeezed, and vibrates consistently to measure the passing of seconds on the watch. Crystals struck underwater, which causes them to vibrate and emit piezoelectricity and electromagnetic frequencies, created the first sonar wave. The first radios were crystal-based, and by adjusting the tuning dial on your radio, one could effectively tune the inner quartz crystal to establish resonance with a particular radio station, vibrating on its same frequency and enabling it to receive information, which could then be processed and translated as audible sound. It is thus easy to see how incoherence or non-coherence is akin to static on the radio or an unclear station. It is also easy to see how important resonance is when it comes to information transfer. If the crystal is tuned just a fraction from the precise frequency of the radio signal, there is a dramatic decrease in the amount and integrity of the information that can be received, processed, and transmitted. Crystals are so integral to the development of our technological advances, from radios and satellites to computer processing, because of the perfect and coherent frequencies and patterns that can be achieved by them. As we shall see, it is the perfection, coherence, and structure of these frequencies and patterns that makes crystals unique in their effect on the organization and structure of water. And that ends Chapter 6.